Oh no, this seems like a bad idea to be doing recording the podcast without headphones on, so that I noise cancel out my own talking. This is so uncomfortable. Oh, it's really weird. But hey, it's the new year. It's another 2022, and continuing on with the podcast. Anyway, whatever. Look, see, shit's already getting fucked. What is that I'm hearing? Is it gone? I think I can hear something coming through the speakers. Oh, they just sound fucked. They sound fucked, but I'm not seeing anything come up on the waveforms. Anyway, what I want to really talk about, as usual, just be talking about movies, but just this year of movies, we can't get into it. But just something that, oh god, the new trend that's happening now that just makes me want to end my life so I don't have to look at this, is just having to taking movies and I guess not finishing them and releasing them to the world and having everyone praise them, being like, yeah man, I fucking love this movie, it's so great. I mean, it wasn't finished, but what I'm saying is that these movies that take a story, they just go over half a story over one film, or an entire story over two films. So you have to pay twice as much, hey, you gotta go I'm talking about Dune here, but you gotta go to the cinemas, you have to see it in the cinemas, you better fucking watch it in the cinemas or I'll cut you. And really, they just want you to pay the money, because I guess it doesn't matter as much if you're watching it on HBO, you can watch it and then you watch the other one, and it doesn't cost you, you know what I mean? But going to the cinemas, you're paying that extra. And the reason people are saying go see it in the cinemas is because if you see it at home, then it's not as impressive a movie, and then you actually start to see how it's a shitty, boring film. But that's the problem with these films, man. And the one that really pissed me off was the South Park movie that came out. Man, I thought I'd give it a watch, the post-COVID one. Oh, I was really interested, but I actually thought I didn't really like that other COVID South Park episode. That was so, I didn't even finish it. I was like, what the hell? What's going on with South Park, man? What's going on with everything? I mean, South Park is it's closer now to Charlie Brown than it is to South Park back in the day. It's really not that funny. But anyway, this post-COVID one, I thought it was okay, I guess. I don't know. I can't even really remember, but... Well, I guess not really. But the problem with this fucking movie is that it's... I knew it was 50 minutes long, and I'm like, oh, it's not really that long, but whatever, I'm watching it anyway. And then it feels like it's getting to the end, I'm like, this feels about the 50-minute mark, and I'm like, how are they gonna finish this all off? Well, the answer to that is they don't. They don't fucking finish it off. And what's happening is that there's jokes that have setups and no punchlines, There is a joke in the show where... And it's one of those jokes where, I can kind of see it... I can see it coming, but that's what you want to see. And it's when Carmen's, become a Jew now. And he even has children and everything. And he's just, a really wholesome Jew guy. And Carl just suspects that he's doing this just to rip on him. Just to sort of burn him. He would go all this way just to do it. And you're like, oh God, it's going to happen. But you don't see that in this movie. What the hell's their problem? How the fuck do you just expect me to watch the other one? It's a movie, not a fucking TV show. And it's 50 minutes long. You could have made it 80 minutes. What's the problem? You could have made it movie length. Jesus Christ, you're only doing this so you can get these fucking... Yeah, when I heard they were making 7 movies of Paramount, I'm like, holy shit, that's a lot. But I think it was even more than that. But now I just see that they're not. They're just these, slightly longer episodes, and they're very much episodes. And, I mean, this doesn't even apply to the South Park show, because even if they were doing... They don't have a setup for a joke in one episode, and then in the next, there's the punchline. They don't even do that in the shows. They're fucking around with us. And so are you, Dune. Fuck you, Dune. fucking movie about sand. That's all you are. It's just that movie, man. Like, look, I watched a Lord of the Rings movies recently for whatever reason. Like, someone brought it up very briefly in conversation. I was like, yeah, I want to watch those films again. So I watched them, and I kind of kept an eye on like how they ended and began, because that is a film that's like split. The story is split up. But looking at it and how those films ended, or how they kind of began from one to another, you know, did it pretty fucking well. They did it well in a way where it's like, well, we understand this isn't the close of the story, but we're not just going to be like, and then like the credits come up and it's just like cutting into the story, like onto our customer now. Cut to credits. They put a bit more in it. You can tell watching it, there is consideration for the fact that it is still the end of this movie and there's more story to come. So I'm still not the biggest fan, but whatever, it's fine. It's just like a bit of a compromise, but they at least handled it well. At least they handled it at all. But in Dune, he gets to like the people and then he has a fight with one of them and kills him easily, and then they're just like, all right, cool, man, you can stick with us. And then they're like, then I guess they say, what do they say? It's only the beginning, or this is the end of the beginning. I think they say this is the end of Dune Part 1, and they look into the camera and it just cuts the credits. Yeah, they probably should have done that, because that's so weird that they did that and they were just hoping that they'd make money. Well, good for them, because it's fucking happening, and I'm not fucking watching it, not even for free. God damn, man. As I was... Dune, like, one of my friends was saying, like, there's this app or something where you can find out where in a movie is the best place to go out and take a piss. And I'm thinking, like, Dune is like, it's the whole movie. The whole movie, man. When I got up to take a piss during that movie, when I went to the lads' room, there was like a stream of guys like entering and coming out of that bathroom. Like, a lot of them, I guess because we were drinking or whatever. But there was a lot of that, yeah. So I'm fucking sick of this whole shit. And you know what, Maine? It's not stopping. They're gonna do it. No one's pushing back against this. I have heard no one talk shit about this except myself, to myself, like right now. No one else. How could people not? It's not like this is like a complete movie, and then you're just like, oh, here's a sequel. It itself is a complete movie, you know. I mean, that was a problem with The Matrix. Reloaded and Revolutions, is that it was kind of just split. It was just like a cliffhanger, and that was it. And it was a confusing cliffhanger, because when I first saw the end of Matrix Reloaded, I thought that guy at the end was Cypher. And I'm like, holy shit, he's back. And then I watched Revolutions. I'm like, wait, that's not Cypher. Who the fuck is this guy? And it's like, he was a guy. He was like, and then what was it? Agent Smith got into this guy, and this is in Zion, and that's who he is, you know. Cool, can't wait to see the next Matrix movie. No Matrix review from me, I haven't seen it. I was gonna watch it, but I forgot. I just forgot. What else can I say? Alright, so two shitty movies that are sort of the year. Yeah, we might as well talk about the worst. Oh, this isn't really the worst. I've already talked about so much of the worst. But alright, just a quick word about these movies that I can't even remember. But first of all, this Last Night in Soho, which I was so trepidatious about, because Edgar Wright to me is that kind of director. I mean, I'm never impressed with him, but I'm always interested in seeing one of his films. Like, I don't even fucking like the early comedy movies he made. Scott Pilgrim's might be his best movie, really, and it's still really just not much to sing about at all. What else? I mean, there was Baby Driver, which I didn't like a heap. That was, yeah. And then there's this, and you know what? I'm done. I'm done with you, Edgar Wright. I'm not watching any more from you. I keep thinking like, oh, he's changing up and doing different things and going into different genres, but no, I don't care. I don't care what you're doing, man. I just can't stand these like incompetent films, and just general. Watching this film, you just overall get a feeling of like, why am I watching this. I mean, no. Why was this film made? Why? Like, what's the point? For fun? It's not fun. So why'd you make it? Holy crap, man! I actually got to remember like what it is that I didn't like about it. The only thing I can think of is like there's this love interest character, and he's really weird. He's just a weird, fucking, I wouldn't say badly acted, but badly directed, love interest character, because first of all, he just shows up at any time. Like anytime, there's a few moments where like the main chick is just like out of a situation and she's like, oh, she's running away or whatever, and then the love interest is just around the corner like perving on her or whatever. He's like, I heard you scream, what's up? What's up with that? What are you doing, man? Why aren't you in your dorm or wherever? Yeah, and he acts really weird. I mean, just as soon as he sees her, he's just like, oh, I just wondered if you want to fuck me. Oh, I get this chick is like kind of cute and all, but whatever, it's bad writing. Just stupid. It's just he's a stupid character. There's a lot of dumb parts. I'm just gonna rattle through them as I remember them. Here's one fucking bit, and this isn't a big part of the film, but it's still a big part of any film. So anyway, there's this bit where I'm not even gonna get into the story or whatever. But anyway, there's the main chick, and she's like a nice chick or whatever, and then there's the other woman in the fashion class that she's in, and she's a bit more of a bitch. And then for some reason, the nice chick, the main woman, she grabs a pair of scissors and is possessed or whatever, I don't know, and she goes to stab this other woman and almost does, but is stopped by the love interest. I mean, they're all in the class, it makes sense he's there, but and she's like, oh, and she runs off and is like, whoa, what's going on with me? It's crazy. I mean, she literally almost killed this woman. And then at the end of the film, like, you know, in a film when you have like the big epic climax, and then it ends, and then you have like the last scene of the film, and everything's like much calmer and it might be a bit jokey and whatever. So you have that where it's like that main chick, she's at the she's doing a fashion award thing, like end of the year part of a class thing, which I'm sure she wouldn't do because she'd be too traumatized. And what the fuck? She tried to stab a classmate and she's still in the class and everyone's applauding her in a shitty fashion. And during this bit, she goes around like backstage and all the classmates are like, hey, you did a good job, thanks. You don't see that chick. You don't see that chick that she tried to stab. That doesn't come up. It makes me just think like the film is just like, don't have her in, it's too awkward. It's weird, man. It's just, the film is just full of these fucking things, man. I'm really still trying to remember, like, look, the main thing about the film is, like, you know, she goes into this fantasy world, like, it's like a dream or whatever, where she's back in the swinging 60s, oh, and it's so great, but turns out not to be, and yeah, you got the bit where, like, she's being her man back in the 60s with this other lady that she's seeing the world through, you know. He turns out to be a real, like, kind of arsehole kind of guy who's, like, trying to control her in her work and you know, that kind of thing. And there's like a bit where she's running away and he just keeps going, come back here, get back here, bitch, come back here. Oh, that's right, she becomes a prostitute and then she starts killing the men. And I'm kind of thinking, like, can you not do it? What, are you forced into it? Like, the film doesn't quite show that she's forced. This isn't like a I don't know, a third world situation or whatever where you're like, I cannot fucking get out of this or I get murdered. Or maybe it is, I don't know. It was the swinging 60s in London. But anyway, this whole thing, like her going in and seeing the world through like this other woman's eyes, and there's all this stuff where it's like she looks into mirrors a lot and she sees her actual self reflected, you know? It's that whole thing. That's the sort of thing that you think like is like a blatant visual metaphor for something or the other. In this film, it isn't. It doesn't mean anything, so why even put it in? Oh, God, I don't know, man. I really don't know. Like, that's the thing, like, the film... And then just the ending, I don't know, I can't even remember it. I just don't give a fuck. So I don't know why I think this film is similar to this other film, but at least this other film was slightly better, but still bad. So yeah, this other film, The Scary at 61st, which made by that chick on the Red Scare podcast. So I've listened to that a bit, so I have a bit of a, I guess I can make a comparison between the two, because like, yeah, it's not as good of a film as Red Scare is a podcast, because there's just none of the, I don't know, the shock value or the amusement or the, and I suppose none of the real, like, great banter in this movie. Like, it's not even, like, incisive at all, like the podcast is, because they can kind of get into, even if it's on a weird esoteric tangent where you're like, oh, this is weird, it's still interesting to listen to. So sometimes I get that way, but it doesn't really, it kind of occurs that way in this film, but it's really, the story to this is, the concept is so interesting and they fucking do nothing with it. Like, the concept is just, they move into an apartment and then this other chick shows up and she's like, oh my God, because they're in an apartment, they're like, wow, we got it for so cheap, how could it be so cheap in this area? And she's like, oh my God, Jeffrey Epstein used to own this place and blah, 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 and there's blood stains on the whatever, and you're like, uh-oh, and then they all start kind of looking into the Epstein conspiracy. And it seems like this is quite a modern fucking thing to be putting in a film. I mean, they're fully going with the whole conspiracy and everything, which I think, all the filmmakers and everyone in the world believes is a conspiracy theory that people believe in. But that's really it. That's like 20 minutes into the film, and it just stays that way for the rest of the film. I mean, what else happens is that these two chicks start having sex. Like, great, cool. If I want to watch lesbian porn, I will, but like, I don't need this, truly. And then I guess the esoteric part is when they go to like a crystal dude, like, a guy that sells crystals and stuff. And he's like, you are in grave danger. You need to get out. and I don't know. And then one of the other chicks gets possessed, and it's just all a bunch of vague, kind of supernatural bullshit. And then it literally ends with like a blatant Eyes Wide Shut reference. The end. I mean, there's nothing to it. Like, it's not even like where it's so subdued in a way where you can kind of get creeped out. I guess like Eyes Wide Shut is a bit like that, where you kind of like start filling in the gaps. But these gaps in this movie are way too enormous, and you're just like, oh God, it's not going anywhere. On top of the fact that the film is just overall incredibly incompetent. I mean, at least, fuck Last Night in Soho, I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but at least I don't know, it looked more expensive, which isn't really necessarily a good thing. But I mean, this one looks cheap, and it just is cheap. I mean, it's shot on 16 millimeters, which is somewhat interesting. It gets kind of more interestingly shot and acted as it goes on. Some decent acting here and there, but I think that the brunette chick is not good at all. It's just so, a lot of the acting, writing, cinematography, everything is so fucking stiff. It's really stiff, awkward, and so yeah, some of that dialogue is really unbelievable. Like, it just sounds too millennial-esque, and it just sounds, I don't know, too serious, And the film itself is just all too serious, and it's not scary. It's not scary in the slightest, not at all. You're just sitting there like, things are happening. Someone gets stabbed at the end, and that's about it. I don't know, man. I don't have much else to say about it. I think something like this could have just been better. It could have just been, it just needs to be like a lot more worked into the fucking script, I would say. That's the thing about the film. The concept is fine. It's just more needs to happen, especially in the second act. The third act is not great at all, but at least it lifts a bit. But even that could do with something. Like, just fuck it. Just put in crazy shit. Make him Jeffrey Epstein make him show up at the end. You could have done that. I mean, you have fucking Ghislaine, apparently. show up in this film for no fucking reason. And they're like, oh my god, I think it's her. We have to go home. It's just something like that. Just have him show up, and then he takes his head off, and he's an alien or something. You just go a little crazy with this shit. But instead, it's just a bloody it's just a bloody nothing. Anyway, shall I get on with the... Alright, so the best movies of the year now. Oh god, I hate talking about movies I like. Oh, I hate it. So the best movie of the year. I still haven't seen so many films. Fuck, man. I should probably be talking about 2020 instead. It's so dumb, as I've said a million times, to be talking about the best films when you've only seen 5. I've seen more than that. I've only seen 5 good films, so here they are. So my number 1 would be the Romanian film Bad Luck Banging or Loony Porn, which I just... Yeah, you know, one of those films I didn't have much expectations for, but it's the film where, you know, it's about a sex tape that gets kind of leaked, and the school teacher has to kind of defend herself against fellow teachers and parents of her students. And the film like kind of opens up with the sex tape. It just shows the sex tape in its kind of entirety. And it's like, it's real. It's pretty full on. It's like, ooh, I'm getting a boner. So I guess the film really, there's only one real way I can talk about the film because it's split into 3 parts. But the first part is interesting because it's actually very calm and kind of just, you know, weans you in pretty slowly as this woman's walking around on the phone just being like, oh god, don't let the sex tape get out. Oh no. She's doing that whole thing. Also the first film I've seen where people are wearing COVID masks, you know, so everyone's walking around all COVID time. And this scene, I mean, this whole sequence, like, you know, it is a very kind of pedestrian, literally, way to open up the film. But they got one interesting thing that they do as it goes on, and it's, if the camera's on this woman as she's walking around, she walks out of shot, and then the camera just keeps moving, and then lingers or focuses on something gross. Like, I think they one time just panned down to the ground, and it's just a mask lying on the ground. Or like another time, I think it's just looking at like how, I guess in Romania, whatever city this is, how you have like an old structure, infrastructure, architecture of just the way things look, you know, all the roads and buildings, most buildings, they're all like got a old whatever look to them. But then there's like newer stuff put on, like advertisements and billboards and just gross consumerist cheap shit. That's kind of what it's focusing on, and that's one of the things about the film, especially when we get to the second part of the film, is that it's kind of just, it's a film that very much opens up a world of opinions, especially when it gets to this second part, where it gets into like film essay mode, which is weird, and I usually don't like that sort of thing, but I love it in this one because it just shows in a really amusing way all these different, it kind of shows like a dictionary, and it just shows you like various things, and it gives you like a definition of them, but the definition is like an amusing one that the filmmaker has written. And a lot of these are on topics like, well, mostly just sex, film, and history, which is what this film's all about. Hey, so it kind of gets through that, and I mean, it seems, you kind of wonder how it like relates to like the story at hand, but it's such a weird, interesting interruption into this film that kind of fills it out a bit more thematically, you know. But like once we get to the third part, which is kind of like, I don't know, the meat and potatoes or whatever of the film, where she is giving her defense against all the teachers, and becomes like a very conversational kind of back and forth, people divulging on their like opinions and their beliefs on like this particular, all revolving around, you know, this sex shit, you know. You know, some of the people are very, very much prudish, particularly like the female parents, you know. And I was kind of thinking that this school teacher woman is too too likable. Like she's not flawed like the other characters seems, or she doesn't seem to have any controversial opinions, and she seems a little too like, what would you say? I don't know, just too flawless as a protagonist, and maybe it seems even like it's just the director speaking through her. It felt a bit that way, and then she then has one line that she says, and that's it, and she doesn't elaborate, but she says something about like not supporting gay marriage, and it's like, oh, okay. So it's just showing you like it's just got, you think she's like seems real airtight in like how much sense she makes in her opinions, but you know, maybe just that one. So you kind of got like a lot of the back and forth in a conversational kind of way that this film has. And certainly by this point, I'm like fully into the film, you know, and then it ends and it's like the film, oh, spoilers, the film like has to end in 3 different ways. So already I'm like, hey, this is cool. I like it when a film, it's weird how this film does seem to have like such a harsh, strongly opinionated view, but then again, it doesn't quite get didactic because it doesn't say like, all right, here's the main thing we need to do, you know? It does have to go over these various things. And also, this film is fucking funny. It's fucking funny. And once I tell you about the ending, holy shit. Anyway, yeah, it's quite funny a lot of the time, especially in that, like, you know, dictionary part of the film. But anyway, we get to the end and it shows you 3 different endings to try and like, one of them is that she keeps her job and then like one of the parents gets into a fight with her. The other one, she loses it and she leaves very despondent. And then the third one, what happens? I think she loses her job and she gets, oh man, she gets so angry that she turns into like Wonder Woman and she like swings her lasso, whips everyone up into like a net and starts fucking him in the mouths with a big dildo, like really aggressively. And then the film ends, it just cuts the credits. I'm serious. It just freeze frames on someone getting throat fucked by a dildo. Immediately cuts the credits. And I was like, that's my favorite fucking... Yeah, I tell you what, this like... In terms of just, I don't know, the whole modern sexuality or whatever, there's been a lot of films that I've seen dealing with, yeah, sexuality, particularly coming from a woman. But this one kind of got it right, got it more right than like a lot of these other ones in the way it kind of deals with things. And just the way that the film is pretty fucking spectacular, as you can imagine. So... I'm so keen to watch it again. I really got it. What the fuck is that sound? Alright, anyway. Just gonna ignore it. So, my second favorite film... I gotta blast through these. Alright, so my second favorite was Nitram. I'm just saying that because I like all movies about mass shooters. They're all fun and... I don't have much to say. I won't say much about this one other than, like, it seems to be pretty... a simple film, nothing too vague or yeah, just vague about like what it's trying to say. Like, you know, it seems pretty to the point, but it is showing how there's like a multitude of like different aspects that led to this. This is the Martin Bryant Tasmanian shooting that led to all that, and it shows. And some of it I didn't really know about, even though I had read about it. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't know like that he almost died and basically killed his friend and all this sort of thing, and he had like a shitload of money that he got from her in the inheritance, and it's all really weird. But yeah, there's like, you know, and then you see like one scene where he goes to a gun shop and he's able to buy guns, and like everyone, including the filmmakers themselves, are all saying like, oh look, you know, see how like when you can buy guns, you can shoot many people. It's like, yeah, sure, you know, we didn't have much of a gun problem before this guy either. And if you want to kill a bunch of people and you don't have a gun, just hire a van, fill it with weight and drive it into. But with yeah, and a lot of people are really going on about like the gun control thing, and it's just like, ah, yeah, sure, whatever. But like, this is getting into, I don't know, just someone can get into just a disturbed state despite their white privilege. In spite of their white privilege, because of their white privilege. The privilege of getting a fuckload of inheritance after killing the person. Yeah, fun film. No, it's really good, and a lot of parts in it that stick out for me. And I think that's a film that like you can't really take out too much. Anyway, what else is good? I like Titane. That was a fun film. It kind of fucked with me. It's very like, a hard-going film with like just what it is showing on screen. You're like, wow, this is weird and fucked up, But then it does, like similarly to Bad Luck Banging, where like a lot of films weren't doing too well with like talking about modern sexuality or whatever. They're just like really blatant and whatever. And some films are doing the same with like identity. Oh, what does it mean to be? Whoa? That kind of thing. Like this film does it in an interesting way. I think it's because it's just so almost fairy tale-esque, really. You probably won't think that way when you're watching the film because of how it plays out, but it does actually seem that way when you think about the story in hindsight. But it is interesting. It even seemed risky for the film to be taking such a storyline. I wouldn't say a bit of a tangent, I suppose. But that does seem to be a pretty interesting film. I wouldn't say like it's putting forward any ideas that are, maybe they're not the clearest, but they're also not the most, like it's not like they haven't been done before, which is fine. It's fine if it's kind of just a bit more of a musing on these sort of topics rather than really putting something forward. But in terms of that, like it isn't really. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about. There's been a lot of films about like the human flesh and the metal and technology and but the way the film does it is still pretty damn compelling. And and I also watched Raw, that film that the director made before. I didn't like that as much. I don't really have much to say about that. It's just like a very general horror film. I like this one more. What else is good? Don't even have any. I don't have my list in front of me, but oh well, fuck it. Who cares? And I like Pig. I don't have much to say about that because I feel like everyone's really just talked about it. And it's not really too much to say about that film. Like, or maybe there is, but just... I think with that... Like, when I was watching that film, I felt disappointed, even though I shouldn't have been, because I felt like there isn't much of a detective story going on here. It's like... It's almost kind of cutting out the detective parts where you don't... I guess you kind of see him, like, interrogating people or whatever, but you don't see them. You just see how he does it, but you don't see how they kind of give up that information. So I mean, that's still fine. It's like that, the restaurant scene. I was watching that again the other day, and I'm like, it's a good way to. I mean, he's like, he's not the way he tries to get the information out of people. He's not doing it by going in and slamming their heads in against like a deep fryer in the kitchen. He's doing it in a much nicer way. It is it's a kind of a feel-good film, even though it's dealing with like a lot of grief, some pretty hard grief. That's basically where the film is sort of revolving around. And I really liked, Nicolas Cage is like pretty damn good in the film, and I liked Alex Wolff as well. Like with, like the way those two characters act and react with each other, is what really makes the film kind of sell. Like I think they're it's not just about like one character or another. It's about how they kind of work together throughout the film, And then I keep thinking about that scene where like they make that dinner together for his father. Oh man, it's like at that point in the film, I was just thinking, I'm really digging this, you know. Like, it has kind of come around eventually, but it is like a very dealing with dark subject matter, but still coming through as like a pretty serene kind of film without, you know, fucking heaping it on and having people say shitty platitudes like, you know, man, life, you know, sometimes you just gotta look at the leaves. You know what? I bet someone did say. No, I don't think so. There really wasn't much of that. In fact, whenever there was something like that, it was kind of more just blatant, like, you know, these people don't care about you. This isn't real. It was all that kind of thing. Anyway, I think that's all. Oh, fuck it. I might as well just... Because I've already talked about Saint Maud, and that's a 2020 film, or 2019, or whatever. I don't know, like, what year are we even in? Well, how do you, like, gauge... like, this is the confusing thing, like, you know, it's like, oh, fuck, you know, and then there's all these films that, like, haven't come out yet, but they're coming out, like, the Macbeth film. I haven't seen that, and it's like, well, maybe that would be on my list, or it wouldn't, or, oh, fuck, I actually deleted my list, crap. Was there anything else what else did I, nah, fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck all this. The last film the only last film I just want to quickly shout out. Oh, I swear there was something else I saw. You know what? No, there probably wasn't, because it's been fuck all good come out this year. But I liked, I don't normally include documentaries on, like, a movie list, because they seem so, the way they're made seems so distant from movies, you know? Like, the way they kind of play out. Which is why the documentary, Some Kind of Heaven, about, like, this retirement community in, you know, Florida, obviously. The way that was filmed was really great, you know, the way it still had kind of like talking heads, and you can hear the director asking questions and all that sort of thing, but it's still kind of, the way it was shot, I was just thinking, I mean, maybe it was just, I don't know, constructing or whatever, because it seemed like there was so many different camera angles in like one scene that I'm thinking, well, this must have been shot over a bit of time, you know, and you can see the way people like emotionally react and this sort of thing. But yeah, and you know, a good looking film as well. It really did look good, and it's kind of just, don't fuck up your film with color grading. Stop, just do it properly. But yeah, the only thing I want to say about this film though is that surprisingly, I think there's like 4 or 5 main subjects in this film kind of complaining about various problems that they're having with the community, or just with each other, or themselves, their lives. And they're all not really likable old people. They seem very kind of selfish and kind of a bit egotistical, and very much thinking about themselves. And I guess that's how you get as you get older. Like, there's a couple in the film, and this woman seems to be dealing with a husband who's, I don't know, like, he's like doing a lot of drugs, like just psychedelic drugs, and going on benders and whatever. And she says in the film, you know, people say marriage is a 50-50 effort, but it isn't. It's 80-20. And I'm like, yeah, kind of looks like that. Kind of looks like you're not really, you're just doing as you do, but this other guy is like fucking around and you have to clean up the mess. Yeah, I wouldn't want that. I would rather him clean up his own mess. But yeah, that was an interesting film. The only film made... the only film... Like, probably the only film I've even seen this year made by someone younger than me. So fuck that guy. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's amazing that I can still talk this much about 4 fucking films, because that's all this goddamn is. I just need to watch older shit, man. I'm slipping behind on, like, watching older shit, you know? I mean, I guess I still watch, like, older films, but I'm rewatching them, you know? But I just need to still check in, you know, with some of these, like, 70s films, you know? Because it's just, there's so many of them, and you don't know what's gonna fucking kick your ass and be amazing. Anyway, that's the movies of 2021. The movies I want to see that I haven't seen are Macbeth, Red Rocket, You know, petite my mum, drive my car, power of the dog. You know, some the other ones. Don't look up. I'm so tempted to watch. Don't. No, I won't. Don't look at that film. And I've been tempted to watch Dear Evan Hansen. I think I will see that film because it looks so fucking terrible. There's something about it. I think it just looks bad in a compelling way, you know? I think what's fucking me up is that I've started writing the screenplay that's like set in a high school. So when I start writing films and I see a film that's like similar, then I'm just like suddenly like locking in. I'm like, oh, I gotta watch it. It's fucked up and gets you watching terrible films, but at least I know. And oh no, I'm not watching Matrix Resurrections. I was going to, and I forgot. I'm glad I didn't. Oh man, that would have sucked. I'm sure it did suck. It doesn't matter. I already had one of my friends was just saying like it's the worst Matrix film. It was saying like no, it is the way worse than Reloaded and Revolutions, and I'm like, damn man. Kind of does, but I don't know. Fuck, man. I just don't know about these things, man. It's just like Showgirls and Freddy Got Fingered. It's like people say these films are terrible, and I watch them and they're amazing. So what the fuck? I don't know what to do. Like, am I just gonna watch this shit later on? I don't know. I think it's just too meta. What I'm gonna do now is look up that chick from it and see who that is. Anyways, it's David Moore vs. Bruce. It's 2022, yo. Episode 2022. Wow, we've done so many episodes. Fucking hell. I'm so tired. I gotta go to work and yeah. Alright, I'm out of here. I might watch I will watch some of that the Vietnam War, the Ken Burns. Yeah, I didn't know this was on Canopy. Hey, hopefully I can watch it without getting my credits removed, you know? My social credit score.